Anchoring resilient states. Stay tuned. This is Damon from NLP Gym, anchoring powerful states on yourself. If you haven't already, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. I recently got an interesting question on my YouTube channel from someone asking about anchoring yourself. He had seen one of my anchoring videos and I was demonstrating anchoring with someone else, and he asked about anchoring himself. This is a really good question because this is something I've struggled with as well. Some people I know can anchor themselves very well. They can just put themselves in a state and then just touch part of their body and then they're anchored. I've always had problems with this, and there's a few different ways to get around it. I'll show you one particular one that helped me a lot, and that is where you use spatial anchors and more specifically floor anchors. So you can actually stand in a spot on the floor and create an anchor that way. And more specifically, you can collapse anchors this way. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is how to collapse anchors by yourself, so you don't need the help of anyone else, and doing it on the floor. So what you want to do is you want to find out what is the state, we can call it the crash state, the state that you go into that is very unresourceful, and you want to pick a very specific context and a time that usually happens. So say it's at work and maybe you have a meeting with your boss every week and you always feel unresourceful, you always feel like you don't know what to say or you don't know what to do and you get nervous. That's a really good collapse state. Now there can be many other collapse states. Say when you go out in public or you go out at night and you're supposed to be social and instead you feel very introverted, you don't want to talk, you feel scared to talk to people. That can be another good one. Another one that you might have is just dealing with a particular person who intimidates you and makes you feel fear, and you get scared and you feel just less resourceful and you can't speak up for yourself or you're not accessing all your resources. It could be any type of performance, speaking in front of people. It could be basketball, it can be pretty much anything, golf, you name it. Any place where you feel like you're not able to tap into your resources and your skills fully because of the state that you're in. So again, we're going to call that the crash state. Now you can pick anywhere on the floor. It doesn't have to be any particular place. It's up to you. So say I'm going to pick to my left, and this is the spot on the floor that I'm going to pick. And I'm going to get a sense of what it is like when I'm in that crash state. So in this particular spot on the floor, I'm going to think about what it's like when I'm actually in this situation. So let's go back to the meeting with my boss. I meet with my boss, and every time I do that, I just don't feel like I'm performing at my best. In fact, I kind of collapse and crash. So what is that like? So what do you see when that's happening? What do you hear and what do you feel? Now you can use this again for any type of context, any type of crash state. So associate into that, meaning you would see what you would actually see if you were there. I would feel what I'm actually feeling if I were there. It means if I'm standing, I feel the floor under my feet. If I'm sitting, then I feel the chair underneath me. You might even get as much as like feeling the temperature in the room. What would you hear? Would you hear your own voice? Would you hear your boss's voice or whoever's voice, or voices that are in the room? And then what does that feel like inside? Like, get in touch with that feeling of what is it like to collapse and crash? Where's the core of that feeling? So say it's in the gut. And if it's in the gut, then how much does it weigh? Is it light or is it heavy? Or does it not have a weight at all? Does it have a temperature? Is it cool? Is it hot? Is it cold? Get in touch with that as well. Does it have a movement to it? All feelings have a movement to it. No feelings are static, even if it's a slight and small movement. And the movement could be going up, it could be going down, it could be turning in a certain direction. So you want to get in touch with all these things. And as you're doing that, you're going to feel yourself kind of going into that crash state. So be a bit careful. You don't want to go too much into it. You want to go into it just enough to know what that is like. And you're anchoring it to the floor. Once you've done that, then step out of it into your meta position. So this is a neutral position, and break state. So an easy way to break state, kind of just stepping out of it, usually can break the state. If not, then you can do things like try to recite the alphabet backwards, try to say your phone number backwards. You don't actually have to do that or actually get it right to break the state. But do something like that to get your mind focused on something else. So once you've broken the state, then you're going to choose where you want to anchor your resource state, and say that is over here. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to think about what is it that I want to have there? What is it that I don't have there that if I had it, I wouldn't be in that crash state? Say the resource state that I need is ferocity. I want to be more ferocious. I want to be kind of like a warrior state, some ferocious resolve. So I would come into this spot and I would start thinking about a time whenever I actually felt that. And so maybe there was one time I was playing a sport or something, and I just felt that. I just felt like it was there. The energy was there. I was confident. Everything was going well. So I'm going to associate into that. I'm going to see what I saw, hear what I heard, and feel what I felt when I was in that memory of having ferocity and being ferocious and strong and powerful. And I'm going to get in touch with what those feelings like are in my body. Maybe that feeling is higher up in my chest, and I can feel it's warm and it's pulsating outward. And so I want to really get in touch with that. And so what I'm doing as I'm doing that is I'm anchoring that state to the floor here. So after I do that, then I'm going to step out and again break state. Now I can see, from this meta position, I can see the state that I don't want, the crash state that's right here. And I can see the state that I want, the powerful state, and that's right here. What I can do then is I can step in here and just test the anchor. When I step into it, do I immediately feel that crash state? If I don't, then it's not appropriately anchored. So I need to do more work here. I need to get back into that state, know what that feels like, see what I see, hear what I hear in that situation, and feel what I feel, and make sure this is anchored. Step out, break state, step back in, see if it's anchored. If when I step into the spot I feel that state again, then I know it's anchored to the floor here. If I don't, then I need to keep working with it. And so break state, make sure you keep your spatial anchors clean. You want to keep your states clean. And then I'm going to step in here, I'm going to test it. Do I feel that coming back up? If I don't, again, I need more work to do. So that would be going back into the situation. And maybe I need to bring in other times where I felt that ferocity, and bring in other situations and give this more context. So you just want to work with this to where you get this really strongly anchored so that when you step out, you break state and you're in your meta state, you can step into either one of these anchors on the floor, and as soon as you step into it, that comes back up. Now here's the really cool part. It's kind of like a mapping across, but this would be actually collapsing anchors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step into this, and I'm going to feel that surging power, that ferocity come up through my body, and then I'm going to take it with me and step over to the crash state and let this overpower the crash state. And you want to make sure that you've established a very strong state with this power state, because if you haven't, then the crash state could overwhelm the power state. But most of the time, positive overpowers negative in most cases. Not always, though. Make sure this is a very strong state. And then crush this state right here. And then step out, go meta, break state, do it again. Step into your power state, feel that surge of power coming up through you and that ferocity, and then take it over here, step into that crash state, and boom, make sure that's done. Make sure you've crushed this crash state, and that you can feel this power surging. And then when you're here, make sure you're seeing everything you would see in that situation. If it's your boss, you're seeing your boss. If you're playing sports or you're golfing, you're seeing those things. You're feeling those things. You're hearing whatever you would hear in that situation. And I would do this about 7 to 10 times. The amazing thing that this did for me is that this is something I learned in my practitioner training. And afterward, I had a friend, and a few other friends, but mainly one friend who was in the same business that I'm in, kept saying that nothing seemed to keep me down. That no matter how many times I got knocked down, I seemed to be extremely resilient, and I would pop right back up in seconds. And he said he'd never seen anything like that in anyone else. And I attribute it to this exercise that I've done, because the first time I did it, the first time I practiced it, I did it specifically for the business that I was in, my insurance business, because I kept collapsing. The amazing thing about this technique is it brings you out of a crash state without you having to think about it, without you having to struggle or fight your way through it. What happens a lot of times is we get into a crash state, and we know we have these NLP techniques. We know even if we might have mindfulness techniques, and we know that we're supposed to use them right then, but it's so hard because you're in that crash state and you're kind of like, oh, okay, I need to roll my eyes around, or I need to think positive thoughts, and maybe I need to do some affirmations. Good luck with that, because when you're in that crash state, it is really hard. It's like you're in a hole and you're trying to dig your way out, but you're weak and you don't have much energy. The amazing thing about this technique is I use the metaphor of a life preserver that's activated by the depth of the water that you're in. So I saw one time on TV they have these life preservers where they're small and they're not deployed. And if you get thrown overboard, and so you get knocked unconscious and you get thrown overboard, there's a little mechanism inside of it. Once you hit a certain depth in the water, it automatically explodes and opens up the life vest. So that if you're knocked unconscious and you're sinking into the water, this thing blows up and will basically bring you back to the surface, even if you're knocked unconscious. That's the way that I think of this technique. If I go into a crash state, I don't have the resources to pull myself out of it. But this thing, no, it's triggered by when you go into that crash state, boom, it brings in your power state and just lifts you right back up, and you come right back up and you're ready to go. And that is what resilience is. You get knocked down, you pop back up. That's what you want to do with this technique, and it will work for you. Give it a try. Check out our website, nlp-gym.com. Follow us on Facebook for real-time updates on upcoming workshops and free practice sessions. I just announced the Ultimate Practitioner Training that's coming up in January. Enrollment is now open. You can pay it all at once. You can pay it monthly. This will be the most comprehensive, most inexpensive, longest NLP practitioner training in the country that I know of, and I challenge anyone to find one that is bigger, badder, and better than this one. Also, if you like this video, please click like right down here and leave me a comment or a question. I will follow up with you. Stay tuned also to the end of this video. You can get your hands on a free online NLP training. Take care.